Good morning, Warriors. Welcome to Morning Adrenaline. Today is Friday, February 6th, 2026. And we are 2 days away from Super Bowl 60, Super Bowl Sunday. Go Hawks. And listen, it is time to wake up the Warrior. Hey, if you've never noticed, it's worth observing. Some people need noise to feel ready. Others are always ready, whether the room is loud or whether it's silent. But only one of those groups survive until the final whistle. So let me set the scene of today's episode for you. If you're watching online and haven't noticed by the Marshawn Lynch jersey, my football team is the Seattle Seahawks. And yes, I'm calling it now. Seahawks over the Patriots, 31-10. Super Bowl Sunday prediction. You heard it here first. But listen, I've watched this team all season. But over the last 8 weeks of what's been an incredible and surprising run, something kept standing out to me. And it wasn't the play calling. It wasn't statistics. It wasn't just noise. It was how they looked in pregame coming out of the tunnel. Standing in the tunnel with laser focus, fierceness in their eyes, swaggy but contained, confident but not flamboyant, present without turning it into a performance. And that distinction is actually important because this wasn't overconfidence that I was seeing. This wasn't chest pounding or forcing of emotions. This was earned confidence, the kind that comes from preparation, not bravado. Overall, the coaching staff has done an amazing job with this team and making sure that it wasn't built on hype or theatrics or emotional chaos. They've been built on focus and discipline. And you can tell they're not trying to convince themselves they're ready. They already know it. They're not trying to convince themselves they can win. They already know it. Now, they're 2 days away from the Super Bowl, and this thought crossed my mind. What if their demeanor changes? What if on Sunday, in 2 days, they get caught up in the emotion of the big game and drift from focus and discipline into hype and motivation? See, here's the risk that nobody usually thinks about. Motivation burns hot, but it burns fast. Hype feels powerful until it disappears. 2 minutes into the game, guys, adrenaline fades. But whatever you're built on, hopefully focus and discipline remain. They're still there. They stay back. So here's what today is really about. I'm calling this episode Built for the Fourth Quarter. And if you know me, if you've listened to this podcast, watched my content, or spent any time around my work, you already know this about me. I always tell you, I'm not trying to motivate you. I'm not trying to hype you up. And you're about to find out why. But your life won't change because you felt fired up for 20 minutes. I'm trying to help you build something deeper, something sturdier, something built more on the foundational principles. Focus, discipline, confidence, what I call gritty, which is motivated discipline that don't depend on emotion, raw emotion, because motivation fades, hype wears off, adrenaline crashes, but focus stays. Discipline continues to execute. Your identity holds firm. And the people who win in business, leadership, fitness, faith, and in life aren't the ones who feel the most ready. They're the ones that are built to perform, and feeling ready is no longer an option. Did you hear that? Feeling ready is no longer an option. They're already built to perform. That's what it means to be built for the fourth quarter. All right, so I think you're ready for the question of the day. And here it is. Think carefully about this one. Don't get this answer wrong. How much do you think the Seattle Seahawks will win by on Sunday? Be honest. All right, kidding. Mostly. Here's the real question of the day. When the hype wears off, when motivation fades, when nobody is clapping, cheering, or pushing you, do you still execute? Not when you feel ready, not when you're energized, not when conditions are perfect, but when it's quiet, it's hard, and it's getting late in the game. See, this question exposes everything. It exposes whether you're running on emotion or operating from identity. It reveals whether your standards are internal or dependent on external energy. Anybody can show up to anything hyped. Anyone can perform when adrenaline is high. But only disciplined, focused people show up the same in the fourth quarter as they did in the first. Think about that. Because the answer to that question is the difference between people who start strong and people who finish in domination. So let's strip this all the way down, because these four words get thrown around constantly, and most people treat them like they're interchangeable, but they're not. And confusing them is exactly why people look strong early, sound confident at the start, and fall apart when it actually counts. This is where potential separates from performance, where your emotions get exposed, where identity either holds or it collapses. So let's now get precise. We're going to walk through the four forces that shape how you show up under pressure. 2 that compound strength, 2 that expire quickly. No fluff, as promised, no motivation, just pure clarity. So let's start with focus, because this is the foundation everything else sits on. Focus is selective attention. It's knowing exactly what matters and refusing to bleed energy anywhere or everywhere else. Focused people aren't intense about everything. They're precise about a few things. They don't chase stimulation. They don't react to noise. They don't confuse urgency with importance. Focus doesn't shout. It gets locked in. That's why focused people look calm in chaos. Their nervous system isn't hijacked. Their mind isn't scattered. They're executing priorities, not reacting to pressure. And here's why focus might be the most valuable and most common trait among high performers. Look across any domain that actually matters. In business, focus is what separates builders from busy people. In sports, focus is what separates talent from champions. In family, leadership focus is what creates stability and safety. In relationships, focus is what builds trust and presence. In health and fitness, focus is what turns effort into results. See, focus isn't intensity. Nothing wrong with intensity, but that's not what focus is. It's direction. Most people aren't unfocused because they're lazy. They're unfocused because they're overstimulated. Too many inputs, too many opinions that filter into your mind, too many options, too much noise. And every time your attention scatters, your energy leaks. That's why unfocused people feel tired even when they haven't done much. Their mind is burning fuel everywhere at once. But focus solves that. It simplifies decisions. It reduces friction. It conserves your energy for what actually moves the needle. And here's the part that I really don't want you to miss. Focus is an identity trait before it's a skill. If you don't know who you are, you won't know what deserves your attention. So that's why focus collapses under pressure for so many people. Pressure doesn't remove focus, it exposes the lack of it. So when the game speeds up, the life gets loud, when stakes rise, whatever you train your attention on is what your default goes to. See, focus removes friction before it ever shows up. And without focus, discipline has nothing to aim at. So, great segue. Now, let's focus on number 2. Let's talk about discipline, because this is where execution either becomes automatic or collapses under pressure. And just a quick clarification before we go deeper. You know I prefer the term gritty, which is motivated discipline. It's a term that I coined. It's a term that I made up. Gritty is motivated discipline because it captures the edge, the resilience, the internal drive behind disciplined action. But for today, we're not going to blur concepts. So let's just keep this clean and go with discipline. Discipline by itself is execution without negotiation. Discipline is behavior that doesn't require emotion. It's structure, standards, repetition. Discipline doesn't ask or care how you feel. It already knows what to do. That's why disciplined people don't wake up hoping for motivation. They wake up with a plan and they follow it. Not because they're inspired, but because the decision was already made. And this is where most people misunderstand discipline. They think discipline is force. It has to be forced. You're white knuckling it. You're pushing harder, but it's not. True discipline removes all of the effort. It eliminates you negotiating with yourself on a daily basis about whether you're going to do things or not, important things. It eliminates your internal debate. It eliminates the question in your mind, should I? Because when the standard is set, the behavior will follow. This is why discipline compounds. At first, it feels heavy. Not going to lie, it's not easy because identity hasn't caught up yet. But over time, discipline stops feeling like something you do and starts becoming who you are. That's, folks, when effort turns into identity. And that is why discipline is so rare, because it requires you to act before you feel ready, to show up without emotional confirmation, to execute without applause. See, most people wait to feel aligned. Disciplined people become aligned through action. And so here's the uncomfortable truth. If you only do what you feel like doing, your life will always be limited by your emotions. Do you know anybody like that in 2026? But discipline breaks that ceiling. Discipline works even when you don't. And without discipline, focus stays theoretical. Point 3. Now let's talk about hype, because this is where a lot of people get fooled. Hype is external stimulation. Music, crowds, speeches, noise. Hype can feel powerful, but it's borrowed energy. Let me say that again. Hype can feel powerful, but it is borrowed energy. And borrowed energy always comes due. This is why hype has never hit the same for me as focus, especially when I'm watching athletes. When I see a sideline that's too loud, too animated, too performative, it doesn't read as confidence. It often reads as compensation, and definitely reads potentially, in some cases, as overconfidence, which can be just as dangerous as compensation because it wears off. So almost like they're trying to manufacture belief instead of operating from it. Hype becomes a cover-up when confidence isn't rooted in preparation. It's noise used to drown out doubt. And you could feel the difference immediately. Focused teams don't need to convince themselves they're ready. They don't need constant emotional spikes to stay engaged. They're already grounded. Hype teams, on the other hand, have to keep the volume up because if it drops, uncertainty creeps in. That, folks, is why hype burns energy fast. It spikes adrenaline, it raises emotion, but it also drains clarity. And once hype fades, if there's no structure underneath, performance collapses. Now, let's be fair. Hype isn't evil. Hype can amplify discipline. It can sharpen the edge when the foundation is solid, but hype can never replace discipline. It can never substitute focus, and it can never carry into the fourth quarter all by itself. If hype is the engine, you stall. If discipline is the engine, hype becomes an accessory, a bonus. So hype without structure creates instability, and instability always shows up when pressure is highest. Now, let's cover number 4, motivation, plainly as I can, as directly as I can. We need to kill the word motivation. I said it. We need to kill the word motivation, not manage it, not refine it, not use it correctly. Kill it. Because motivation might be the most misleading word in the entire success dictionary. Motivation, folks, is emotional willingness. And emotions are inconsistent at best. That alone should disqualify it as a foundation for building anything real. Motivation is built on sleep. It's missing when you have stress. It often requires praise and validation. It's built on momentum. So what if you're not currently in momentum? Which means it cannot be trusted. And yet we built an entire industry around it. People have built empires around motivation. Motivational speakers, motivational coaches, 6-figure speeches designed to pump up a crowd. For what? A day? Maybe 2? Maybe just for a couple hours for some attendees? Then everyone goes home and nothing actually changes. That's not transformation. That's an emotional sugar rush. And for entrepreneurs especially, motivation is dangerous because building cannot be emotional. Startups don't get built on vibes. Businesses don't survive on inspiration. Execution doesn't care how fired up you feel. When entrepreneurs rely on motivation, here is what happens. They work hard when they feel like it. They disappear when they don't. They confuse emotional momentum with progress. And eventually, the gap shows. If motivation is required to act, action will eventually stop. And high performers understand this. They don't kill motivation, but they do demote it. So motivation needs to be optional, but only when the foundation is already built on discipline and focus. See, discipline shows up when you're tired. Discipline executes under stress. Discipline performs without applause. Motivation says, let's go, if it feels right. Discipline says, this will get done with no exceptions. And that, friends, is the difference between people who start things and people who finish them. If motivation is required, execution is fragile, and fragile systems never survive the fourth quarter. So let's bring this back in full circle for a second. Focus creates clarity. It tells your energy where to go and where not to leak. Discipline delivers consistency. It turns intention into execution day after day after day after day. Hype excites. but then it disappears. Motivation inspires, and then it fades. And the people who win late don't depend on emotion. They depend on who they've trained themselves to be. Because when the noise dies and the pressure rises, identity, hear me, not adrenaline, decides the outcome. Now, of those of you that want to solve your challenges around these 4 issues, let's talk about solutions. Because awareness without resolution is just insight that fades. So if you're struggling with focus, discipline, gritty, or any other internal friction that keeps showing up, no matter how hard you try, this is how you fix it. Quickly and permanently. Not by trying harder, not by hyping yourself up, not by removing the internal resistance that keeps breaking execution. And this is exactly where Sisu Vita comes in. And to be clear, I'm using focus as the example here, but the same system applies to everything. It could be focus, discipline, gritty, confidence, consistency, follow through. It can help you out of depression. In fact, we built over 50 structured roadmaps, each designed to rewire a specific identity trait at the subconscious level. So let me walk you through how it works, how the focus roadmap is used. Every roadmap starts with problem shifting. Focus is no different. Problem shifting clears daily mental clutter. It clears the noise out of your head that's constantly there. It's constantly buzzing. It's constantly holding you back, dragging you down, crushing your momentum, giving you a migraine, causing depression, the overthinking, the constant pull on your attention. Now, if problem shifting doesn't fully resolve the challenge, we move into blockage shifting. And this is designed for some of the deeper resistance that keeps showing up on a daily basis that you can't necessarily get rid of with problem shifting, something probably more deep-rooted in your subconscious. So an example of that might be procrastination. It's always there, but problem shifting didn't resolve it. We're going to get it with blockage shifting. Point 2 on the roadmap. If needed, we go into trauma shifting, which would be number 3. And by the way, trauma shifting is not to erase bad memories, but to minimize its emotional charge. Old or new traumas, big or small traumas. So it no longer has power over your attention, decisions, or behavior. Next, we go into belief shifting, which is removing the limiting beliefs that destroy focus. So let's think about focus, limiting beliefs. I can't concentrate. My mind never shuts off. I'm easily distracted. This is just how I am. These are all limiting beliefs that you can crush right now today if you wanted to, if you had the right system, maybe a roadmap for focus. See, those beliefs don't motivate you. They sabotage you. And they have been likely for years, maybe going all the way back to your childhood. Then comes identity shifting, installing a focused, disciplined identity that operates automatically. I'm not going to go any deeper right now. You guys hear me talk about identity all the time, but if you want to be powerful, you need a power identity, period. End of story. Nothing will change for you until you do. And then once all that clutter is gone, we use reality shifting to lock in execution and ensure you follow through and crush the goals you set for yourself. I call it the goal crusher. You do not get out of reality shifting until you're 100% certain you're going to crush whatever goal you went into that session hoping to achieve, and going out knowing you're going to achieve it. The most common methods used in maintenance, which is number 7 on the roadmap, maintenance, are reality shifting and problem shifting. You use reality shifting as needed, even daily, okay, to crush your goals, with unlimited access to crush daily, weekly, monthly, yearly goals, whatever it is. You can go in every single morning with unlimited membership access for less than the cost of a gym membership and ensure you crush your daily goals. And the second most popular in maintenance is the problem shifting method to clear new clutter as it shows up and handle old clutter as it might resurface. But of course, all the methods are available to you with unlimited access as a member. And again, this isn't just about focus. We have roadmaps to develop everything you can imagine. And if we don't, we'll create it for you. My favorite word's gritty. We have a roadmap to develop gritty, motivated discipline. And every other high value trait we've built roadmaps for. All of it, again, for less than the price of a gym membership. Here it goes again. No hype, no motivational speeches. Guys, I don't want to hype you. I don't want to motivate you. It's not my purpose. It's not what I'm here for. And it wouldn't do you any good if I did. You need permanent transformation at the subconscious level. We all do. It's not just you. And there's no coaching required. You're not going into coaching sessions. You don't need to do anything else other than jump into the sessions as you need them. Follow your roadmaps. But this is just a system that removes resistance and builds an identity that executes automatically. So let's close this out. When the noise dies, when the hype fades, when the crowd quiets and the adrenaline is gone, it's the fourth quarter, baby. So here's the final question I want you to sit with. When it's late in the game, when it's hard, quiet, and uncomfortable, do you still execute? Or do you wait to feel motivated again? Do you wait for energy, encouragement, or the right mood to show up? Because life doesn't reward potential, it rewards consistency. And the people who win in business, leadership, health, faith, and life aren't built on emotion. They're built on focus. They're built on discipline. They're built for the fourth quarter. Work your body, feed your mind, build your soul, wake up the warrior. I'll see you guys next week after the Seahawks win the Super Bowl.
Stuck in your mind, fighting shadows of a story you left behind.